of the most common questions trustees ask me all the time is, Paula, how long is it going to take? And unfortunately, there isn't one answer. Over the years, I've seen the full range. I once had a trust property that closed in just 6 days from an accepted offer to closing, an extraordinary case that took incredible coordination from everyone involved. I've also seen trust property sales take many months, and in some cases, more than a year. And if you're the beneficiary waiting for your inheritance, the timeline matters even more. So, what causes the difference? Is it the market, the buyer, the attorney, the trustee? The answer may surprise you, because one of the biggest misconceptions families have is that the process begins when the property hits the market. In reality, that's often when the final phase begins. Today, we're going to discuss what actually determines the timeline of a trust property sale, where delays occur, and how trustees can set realistic expectations from the very beginning. Hi, I'm Paula Aragone with Aragone & Associates. For more than 23 years, we've helped trustees, attorneys, fiduciaries, and families throughout Orange County navigate complex trust property sales. We maximize value and minimize stress. Strategy is what we do. And one of the most valuable things we can do for a trustee is help them understand the road ahead. Because uncertainty creates stress. Expectations create confidence. Let's talk about what really drives the timeline of a trust property sale. One of the biggest misconceptions trustees have is that the process starts when the property is listed. In reality, many trust sales begin weeks or even months before the first buyer ever sees the home. Before a property can be listed, trustees often need to work to review trust documents, confirm trustee authority, coordinate with legal counsel, communicate with beneficiaries, address personal property, evaluate the home's condition, obtain estimates, determine strategy, and sometimes resolve title or vesting issues. The truth is that a trust property sale is often a project long before it becomes a listing, and understanding that helps trustees avoid frustration when the process takes longer than expected. Let me give you a real-world example. We were referred an estate property in Huntington Beach by Paul Velasco of Velasco Law Group, an experienced estate planning and trust attorney whom we had the privilege of working with on a number of trust and estate matters over the years. The family hired us in June, and like many trustees, their first question was, how quickly can we sell the house? The answer wasn't immediate, because before the property could be listed, there were important steps that needed to happen. Certain personal property had to be gifted to family members. In this particular case, there were more than 10 beneficiary children involved. As you can imagine, coordinating personal property, family schedule, gifted items, and even estate sale required time, communication, and careful planning. The trustee needed to allow time for those items to be claimed. An estate sale needed to be conducted. The property needed to be empty. Only then we could evaluate the home and determine the best strategy moving forward. After inspecting the property, we presented 3 options. The first option was to paint, replace carpet, make repairs, and stage the home. The second option was to focus primarily on staging to improve presentation while minimizing expenses. The third option was to sell the property completely as is. Each option came with different costs, timelines, risks, and projected outcomes. The trustee reviewed the information and made an informed decision. The property was professionally staged and brought to market at $1,320,000. The response was immediate. The home received multiple offers and went under contract in approximately 5 days. The purchase agreement was executed quickly. The transaction successfully closed at $1,360,000. From listing to closing, the entire process took only a few weeks. But what most people don't see is that we had actually been working with the family for months before the property even reached the market. Family members need time to claim gifted personal property. An estate sale had to be completed. The home had to be prepared. The strategy had to be deployed. The trustee had to make important decisions. The market only saw a few weeks. The trustee experienced the entire journey from start to finish. And when you're coordinating more than 10 beneficiaries, that's no small task. And that's one of the most important lessons in trust real estate. Every property comes with a story. Some homes are vacant, clean, and ready to market. Others contain decades of belongings, deferred maintenance, repairs, or emotional attachments that make decisions difficult. A trustee doesn't just inherit a property, they inherit its condition, and that condition often determines how quickly the process can move. Sometimes spending a few extra weeks preparing a property can actually shorten the overall time and produce a significantly better outcome. The fastest sales is not always the best sale. The best sale is the one that achieves the right outcome in the right amount of time. Another factor trustees often don't anticipate involves beneficiary communication. In many trust sales, a trustee will give beneficiaries what's called a notice of proposed action, often referred to as a NOPA. This is a formal notice of the trustee's intended action, like selling the property, that gives the beneficiaries a set period, generally 45 days, to object before the trustee moves forward. When beneficiaries receive that notice and raise no objection within the window, the process can move forward smoothly. But if a beneficiary does object, the timeline can change dramatically, and the matter may need to be worked through with legal counsel before the sale can proceed. That's important for trustees to understand going in. Sometimes the delay is in the market. Sometimes it is in the buyer. Sometimes it's simply the trust administration process itself. The earlier expectations are set, the less stressful the situations become. Here's another surprise many trustees encounter. A cash buyer does not automatically mean a quick closing. We've had transactions where the buyer was ready, the trustee was ready, escrow was ready, and everyone expected a smooth closing. Then title discovered an issue. In one recent transaction, a prior divorce settlement and a subsequent trustee succession created questions regarding the chain of title. The issue wasn't visible to the trustee, it wasn't visible to the buyer, and it wasn't discovered until escrow was already underway. What appeared to be a simple transaction suddenly required additional documentation, review, and coordination among the trustee, legal counsel, and title company. Fortunately, the issue was identified and resolved, but it's a perfect reminder that trust property sales don't always follow a straight line. Sometimes the biggest delays are buried in events that occurred years before the property was ever listed. In my experience, trust property sales are rarely delayed by the market. They're delayed by uncertainty. Uncertainty about personal property, repairs, pricing, and beneficiaries, about authority, and about what happens next. The trustees who experience the smoothest transactions are not necessarily the ones who move the fastest. They're the ones who prepare the earliest. And that's one of the most important lessons I can share. The more questions that are answered upfront, the smoother the process tends to be later. For the attorneys, beneficiaries, and professional trustees watching this episode, one of the greatest values experienced advisors bring to a transaction is helping set realistic expectations from the beginning. Most delays aren't catastrophic. Most are predictable. And when trustees understand the process, they make better decisions and experience significantly less stress. The goal is not simply to sell the property. The goal is to create a process that is efficient, documented, and predictable. That's where collaboration between trustees, attorneys, and fiduciaries, accountants, title officers, and real estate professionals becomes so important. Earlier, I mentioned a trust property that closed in just 6 days from accepted offer to closing. That didn't happen because we got lucky. It happened because everyone involved, the trustee, attorney, title company, buyer, escrow officer, and our team, was prepared, aligned, and ready to act. And that's really the lesson of today's episode. The timeline isn't determined when the property goes on the market, it's determined by everything that happens before and after. The market only saw a few weeks. The trustee experienced the entire journey from start to finish. And when trustees understand the process, prepare early, and work with the right professionals, they can move through that journey with far more confidence and far less stress. Because the fastest sales don't happen because people move fast, they happen because people prepare early. One note: everything I've shared today is general information, not legal advice. Every trust is different, so always confirm specifics with your trust attorney. If you're serving as a trustee and would like help understanding the likely timeline for a trust property sale, we're happy to help. Every property is different, every trust is different, and every family situation is different. A short conversation early in the process can often save months of frustration later. I'm Paula Aragone with Aragone & Associates. For more than 23 years, we've helped trustees, attorneys, fiduciaries, and families maximize value and minimize stress throughout the trust property sale process. If you found this episode helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone navigating a trust sale or an estate property. And if you have questions you'd like us to answer in the future episode, leave them in the comments below. I'll see you in episode 8, where we answer one of the biggest questions beneficiaries and trustees have after a sale closes. Where does the money go, and when do beneficiaries actually receive their inheritance?